Hello everybody, it's me, Riff Raff Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault. And today, we have a monster review. Now the monster we're going to look at today comes to us from the FIEND Folio. And the mischievous creature we're going to talk about today is called the BOOKA. Another strange name, but at least something that's interesting. The BOOKA is a very small creature. And like I said, comes to us out of the FIEND Folio, which is used with basic Dungeons & Dragons and advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and came out during the time that first edition rules for advanced Dungeons & Dragons were in play, so this is considered a 1E monster. And of course, it's not a very big one. It's small and mischievous, and could be a lot of fun in a pub if you're doing a town adventure. They only stand about 1 foot tall. And they're a winged creature. They're very homely looking. They have exaggerated features that make them look kind of like homely little old guys with wings. Big noses, this kind of stuff. And they, like I said, both fly and they do not have a very low armor class. The armor class is only 7. They have 1 to 4 hit points. So not very much on that side either. They're very intelligent. They're neutral. And they are, well, an interesting little creature. Like I said, they can fly. They tend to hang out inside of buildings, like up near the rafters, close to the chimney, any place where it keeps it very warm. They're like a warm environment. And like I said, they're neutral. They dislike evil creatures, and they'll go out of their way to cause harm and pranks and so forth to evil creatures. Having said that, they don't have any attacks. Well, not directly. Now, like I said, they can fly and run around and whatnot, and they have one very, very special ability. They can turn invisible at will, as often as they like. They can do it in the middle of an action. They can do it at any time. Very handy. And like I said, it makes for an interesting potential encounter at, say, the local pub or something like that. Now, if you manage to offend, injure, or harm one of these, then it gets a little more interesting. They will definitely pursue revenge. And they'll do that by calling other BOOKAs to help lay some kind of fatal trap or snare with the purpose of killing or badly injuring the person who caused the problem to begin with, unless that person is clever and gives them a substantial gift. The examples used in the book include things like a magic item, a small magic item, or a sack of gold. I don't know, that seems like an awful lot for something that's only a foot tall. Now, these creatures are not very common, but they're not that rare either. Now, these things are able to move pretty dang fast, and with the invisibility, they generally avoid contact with people as much as possible. But, of course, once again, this depends on the Dungeon Master and how they're used. Because they're neutral, they really don't pursue anything that's, well, I'd say beyond occasional maliciousness. But they can be an awful lot of fun with their ability to move quickly and turn invisible at any point they want. And the fact that they're intelligent makes it harder to get past these super easy, if you encounter them. Now, have us dwarves ever run across a BOOKA? Well, believe it or not, yes, and talking to the dwarves out there, occasionally, when they've been like staying at an inn somewhere, they've heard the stories and seen the results, but not really had any direct interaction with these creatures. But they have seen the results when they've caused like pranks and so forth for the evil guy who was traveling in their party. So I guess it does happen. Of course, in the gaming world, it's a little bit different. I had to go out there and ask people and see in the greater Hornhelm community what both the dungeon masters and players thought of this creature. So, in talking to the dungeon masters, they didn't think much of them. They thought they were kind of fun, but most of them had forgotten this had even existed. So, really, in talking to everybody out there, I only ran into a few who'd used them before, and they said, yeah, they're a lot of fun to use, but in terms of difficulty in dealing with, they thought maybe a 1.5. Players that I spoke to were a little bit more complimentary because they probably were on the receiving end of any of the difficulties in dealing with this creature. And those players came back and said, hey, we think about it too. Thought that was a little high, but hey, up to the players. So not the strongest creature in the world, but one that you could have some good fun with if you wanted to use it inside of an indoor environment. It doesn't have to be a pub. It could be in stables or any other indoor environment where they would want to be there because it's warm and comfortable. Interesting little creature. And like I said, one you can consider putting into a dungeon because, to be honest, you're highly unlikely to have players who know what this is. So that, my friends, is the BOOKA. We hope you found today's presentation to be interesting, educational, amusing, all that kind of good stuff. If you did, please be so kind as to leave us a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't. By all means, leave us a comment or share with your friends. But most of all, come back and see us again real soon. We thank you so much for your kind support. Take care, everyone, and remember, dwarves rock!